Hello. So I want to address some of the comments that you guys made, and I appreciate all of the positive comments. It is very difficult to share truth, but I would say that the more that you share it, the more you start to believe what you've been shown, right? So um, when you awaken usually to your eternal state, right? And what I mean by that is that your identity, the fact that I'm Tara, goes away. And so when you go through that, you do go through a period of psychosis because your parents aren't your parents, your siblings, if you have siblings. I didn't growing up, but if you have siblings, you look at them differently. Like, you just look at everyone around you differently because you're shown kind of the spiritual realm. Now, some people are shown more of the spiritual realm than others because of what they can handle. So there are different levels of awareness in the awakening process, and then you kind of just keep going up. And what I mean by up is that you just keep holding more and more truth and light and awareness that your soul already embodies in another realm, in another frequency. And it can get really disorienting, right? Because you're living in a world where there is so much opposition. And so you do go through spouts, and I went through this, and I still kind of have like moments where you're like, am I losing touch with reality and whatnot? But what I found to overcome that is you must speak your truth at all times. It does not matter if you still work in corporate America or in your day-to-day job, or when you go to workout studios, or when you go to the grocery store, or when you're out with people or at family events or whatever. You need to start to embody your true state, which when you are in your true state, once you're awakened, you talk about spiritual stuff. You talk about seeing things. So for example, I can read people, and I went back to corporate America after I awakened because I was in denial and I could not hold the frequency. And so Spirit had me go to corporate America as an awake person, so I could start to believe the truth of everything. And because I was in recruiting, I went up a lot faster, right? Because I was interviewing people every day. And when I was interviewing people, I was seeing through them as I was interviewing them and all of this stuff, right? So I elevated quickly. It allowed me to learn how to ground myself in the material while seeing things from a different standpoint. Then I got to a weird point in corporate where I became a leader. I was in management. And I was so conflicted, and Spirit pushed me and was like, you need to speak truth every day, all the time. So I did. I worked with executives, with my team that I hired, when I would interview people, and I would talk about God. I would talk about the spirits. I would talk about what I could see in people. I would talk about where people were out of alignment. And what I found is the more that I spoke truth, the stronger I became. And people started to see what I saw. So when I was in those environments, or even just in general, when I'm in an environment with someone right now, I can project the reality somewhat that I see. And those that are able to see it, they'll go towards it. Now, what happens is when I would leave the field, they would go back down, but they now have seen what's possible, right? So this is how we elevate the world. We must speak our truth. So a lot of you have commented on the videos, and you have said that you saw truth, and then you've kind of gone back down, and you're in the middle of like kind of psychosis and all of that. To get you through psychosis, you must speak truth. And what happens is you have to get your ego to believe you're in the spirit realm, because otherwise you're going to be battling your ego the whole time. You want to get your ego to reprogram in alignment with your soul. That is the ultimate goal. And then once you do that, you get locked in to the spirit guidance, and the spirits will guide you. Because people that watch this video that don't understand, you are being directed all the time by spirits. The difference between being conscious and unconscious is, are you aware that it's actually happening? Are you aware that the thoughts that come up into your mind are not necessarily yours, and you have to observe? When you recognize the observer in your thoughts, meaning you have a moment of aha where you realize that you aren't your thoughts, you are like observing your thoughts. When you can latch onto that, you start to realize that that observer side of you is really like your ego, I would say, because it's not always, I think, your soul that's always observing. I don't know about that. I need to think on that and how I want to talk about that, because I think our soul is guiding us. And so I sometimes think that the observer part of myself is still my ego, because my ego is the one that's the conscious player that's playing. And then I receive insight from my soul on which route I need to go. And like, it's like either a feeling, or when I'm really quiet, I can hear the voice. Like, I'm not like hearing voices, but you can talk to your spirits. So that's one thing. Another thing is, someone was asking me, how do I know what is my spirit? Well, sometimes you have to start to bring awareness to acting out the voices in your head that they're telling you to do. So for example, if you get a nudge to go get an item at the grocery store, or go eat something, or go hang out with a group of people, right? And then you go and do that, and then you get to that event, or you start eating that food or whatever, and you start to feel off. That's bringing awareness to that, is your ego identifying that the voice in your head that told you to go do that action doesn't feel right. Okay. So then you start to create your ego starts to get curious, right? You want to get your ego curious. You want to get your ego excited that it's playing a game, and you can navigate what's right and what's wrong based off the feeling inside of you. So a lot of people have been told to like turn off their feelings, but your body is an antenna, and it will guide you on what direction you should be following. And so you need to listen to that. The more that you follow that, right? The more that you're like, okay, I feel weird doing this, so I'm not going to do it anymore, and I'm going to try something else. That's when you start to build up confidence. That's when you start to get your consciousness, like you become more self-aware. And the whole goal is to become self-aware of what you're doing, right? And not to beat yourself up. And as you go through this journey, things that you might have liked 6 months ago are going to be completely different than what you like now. So you have to be really open to the fact that you could be a completely different person a year from now, and be very good about not latching on to an identity and just kind of letting things flow, right? I wake up every day and I don't know, I know I need to find my center, but I always am like, what am I going to have to process today? Because I have very vivid dreams that have a lot of emotions in it, and sometimes those dreams stick with me. So one of the other things that I think is really important is that you guys need to move your bodies and work out multiple times a day if possible, like in the morning, in the evenings, and then midday, like you should be doing multiple times on the weekends. You should prioritize movement, your body, finding workouts that you enjoy. This allows you to bring awareness to thoughts that come in your head. It's always good to mix up workouts too, like try different things. So those are some of the things I wanted to talk about. And anyways, we'll see what the comments are, and then I'll make another video from there tomorrow or something like that. But I really appreciate everyone's comments. Y'all are giving me the confidence I need. I am going to do a podcast soon. I am just ensuring that my vessel is very clear, so that way when I do the podcast, I can be very centered for y'all, because I still notice that my ego tries to dumb things down, and I don't want to do that when I do the podcast. All right. Thanks, everyone.